Hello everyone, I'm Chidinma.
And I'm Ojay. You can call me OJ. Welcome to Scholar Chit Chats. We're your hosts on this exciting journey.
That's right. Scholar Chit Chats is not just a podcast, it's a conversation. A talk show crafted to bring you a fresh, honest, and comprehensive perspective on academic scholarships, professional life, and the unique experiences of life in the diaspora or as an international student.
And we are not just talking theory, we're sharing insights from our own lived experiences because we've been there, navigating academia, chasing scholarships, and building our professional lives in a foreign land. So, a big thank you for joining us today. It's fantastic to have you on board.
We're beyond excited about this episode and we hope you are too. Get ready to dive deep, laugh with us, and maybe even learn a thing or two. So without much ado, let's jump into Scholar Chit Chat. It's going to be a journey full of stories, wisdom, and maybe a few surprises along the way.
So thanks for being here, and let's make this episode an insightful and enjoyable ride. Here we go. Hello everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to a new year, 2025. And it's our first episode for the year, and I'm OJ.
And I'm Chidinma. Happy New Year, scholars. They would like to hear your feedback. Like, how was 2024 for you? For those who are still planning, what targets did you meet? Did you follow any of our advices? So tell us, give us updates. Okay, it feels so great to be back, and we're starting this year with an exciting episode to help you set yourself up for success. So it's a new year, it's a new you, and it's time for you to get into graduate school.
That is right. So today we are diving into planning for the new year, and it's really for everybody. I think it's tailored to everybody that's kind of interested in the graduate school journey. So whether you're just starting to explore graduate school, whether you are reapplying, whether you are in graduate school, you started graduate school and maybe on your second semester, or you're just thinking about preparing for the next application cycle. So really wherever you are, and again, I think some of the things we'll talk about may be applicable even beyond the graduate school. So I'll just say this episode is for everybody. It's for you in particular.
Yeah, and you are going to also be sharing personal experiences like what work. I remember the year I started, I told myself, you know what, I'm going to give myself over to the graduate application. It either works or it does not work. So we're going to be sharing some of our personal experiences, what worked for us, what didn't work for us. And the aim is that we want to make this conversation as relatable as possible for you, such that when you're done listening to this episode, you have something tangible to work on. Okay, so if you're maybe the weather wherever you are, if it's cold, get a blanket. If it's hot, turn on the AC. We're here to give you what you need.
Yeah, so we'll start from the very beginning and something that is like the background and the foundation of actually starting. And it's quite, let's say, paradoxical, but it's the fact that to actually move forward, sometimes you have to look back. And so that's about reflection. To set goals, you first have to reflect. And the new year is like the perfect time to look back and to take stock of what happened last year and then to figure out what worked and what didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, reflection is very, very important. I think that it has been a game changer, not just really with graduate school. I think generally with life, with relationships, just sitting down to reflect. What did I do? How did I say something? What did I plan for that didn't work around? And so I know that there was a time I was juggling just very different applications, different projects. At times, it's just good to pause and like, okay, what am I doing? And I think reflection is very important for strategy, right? I think I have learned over time, and I heard someone say this, that generally people praise people that are very diligent, right? Like this person knows what they're doing, they're very diligent. Diligence is good, but it's good to be diligent at the right thing. So imagine being diligent at doing something that probably would be a waste of one's effort and time. You're expending energy, but then you're just not getting results. So reflection really helps me to prioritize. And I think it has really, really been a very game changer for me, particularly with graduate school application. Just reflecting, why didn't I get this application? It's easy to just think, oh, it's because they don't want to give it to me, but really just pausing down and reflect, could there be anything I could change? I don't know. What about you, Ojay?
Yeah, I think you're right about like the benefit of reflection for strategizing. And when you were talking about hearing somebody, I think I heard it from someone quite close to me. I'm not sure who now, but the person was talking about how it's necessary to be working in the right direction. To be, the words of the popular saying is not coming to me, but the person kind of said the popular saying going, and then added the fact that direction matters. So, and this is where reflection actually comes to play, because you can be going fast, or you can be putting in efforts, and you can be doing stuff, but if you are putting your efforts in the wrong direction, you will not get the right results. And the only way to know, you have to take stock of where you are headed, is actually by reflecting and then looking back. Because I'm just illustration that comes to mind is somebody that's like driving a car. Sometimes I think it's quite difficult. It's quite easy. I feel maybe if you're on the highway and you just have to be going in one direction, you can maybe get like mindless. Your mind, you kind of zone out. In quotes, you can be lost in thought. You are still conscious of surrounding. You are doing all you have to do correctly, but you're not like putting in your 100% attention. So it's possible that you just keep going and you're making progress, right? But you may have forgotten to take an exit, and you just keep going. But from time to time, I believe that everybody that drives does this, or at least now with technology, the map will kind of say, oh, in the next 10 miles, turn right, kind of thing, bring you back to where you are and help you focus and then take the right turn or make the right move. So I think that is what reflection does. And generally for me as a person, I try to do reflection always. I try to reflect as a continuous process, not just waiting for the new year. Of course, I do like reflecting around the end of the year because it's a time that's quiet generally. So I welcome the quietness, I welcome the break, and also just reflect. I think that a lot of people have to also kind of make reflection an ongoing process, because it will help you. Like if you don't wait to the end of the year to reflect when you're doing your applications, you may be able to you could potentially stumble onto something that would be a game changer for the next application that you are doing in that particular year. If you wait until the end of the year to figure that out, then I mean you've lost some time. I mean, it doesn't mean that everything's a waste, but you've lost some time. So what I would just want to say is that make reflection an ongoing process, but also to just say the reason why reflection is very, very important, because it helps you take the right decisions at the right time. It grounds you, centers you, brings you back to the moment, and then you are able to do what is right.
That's very, very interesting. I think you summarized everything, like on the importance of reflecting and not waiting till like last minute. Oftentimes, like maybe I remember way earlier on 31st night, maybe around 10 p.m. That's when I'll start scribbling things down and like, oh, let me put this thing down, and it's usually very funny. I don't think that's probably the best way to reflect. So I don't know, Ojay, what's one specific challenge you reflected on last year, still on that part of reflection, that influenced your goals for this year? I know you mentioned having like reflected and set goals. So what were the things that, maybe just one challenge you reflected on that influenced the goals that you set for yourself this year?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I'm not in the phase of I'm not applying for graduate school, but I am in graduate school. So my reflections were and even the kind of challenges I faced last year were regarding like thriving in graduate school. And I think mostly for me it was about finding balance in things, because last year for me was a lot of change. I think I was changing practically almost every month. It was like we're just trying something new, and I was doing something new even on my program and then in my personal life, and everything was moving. It was a constant chess moving thing. So for me it was coming to a point of finding how everything would work well together, such that I'm not always in a state of alertness. I think I realized I wanted to also be at rest and not always be alert. So that was like a challenge for me, and I had to take good note of this because it started affecting my health. So that call. So I think that's something that people also have to consider, the fact that the physical, I mean, your health is physical, but like even things that everything in your life can affect your health. So you want to not come to the point where your health is affected before you start doing the right things. So for me, that was a challenge that came for, and so it became very, very necessary to ensure that I sought balance. Because for me, I know that I'm not as an individual, I'm not going to stop pushing myself to be the best and to learn. Learning is something I enjoy. So apart from the fact that I'm in a PhD and I have to always be learning stuff every day is something new. Apart from that, it's something that I enjoy doing. So I'm not going to stop doing it. So it's how do I learn, stay at the edge of stuff, be mentally stimulated, be thriving, and be healthy, and all those type of things. So that is kind of like, that was the center of my goal setting for this year, and it was based on the reflection and the challenges from last year. So how about you, Chidinma?
The challenge I reflected on last year, I think one major thing I really thought about was consistency in terms of keeping to my word, and I would say also like getting a lot of things, like feeling the need to like, I need to do everything myself, and I think that's one of the challenge that I reflected on, and I was having a conversation with someone, and I think that, and I think earlier, I think it was on the 30th or the 31st, I was listening to something about delegation, and that's something that I feel like, I mean, it's just the third day, but I think I'm very proud of myself since 2025, just being able to delegate some things and just seeing them walk around, and it's like, hey, that's really nice. So I think that's one thing I kind of felt like I felt that I needed to be in some things. So I think, just in summary, I think one of the videos I was listening to said something about the 3 R's. So looking at something that is rewarding, and looking at, I've forgotten the other R. So oftentimes it's just so easy to focus on something I enjoy doing, but just looking at, is this going to reward me, and what kind of reward, and does it, if with the kind of reward, does it deserve my attention? So yeah, I think that has been something that I would say that reflected in my goals and my approach towards work.
That's really cool.
So I think that for our listeners, one thing we would say is just take your time to ask yourself, like, what did I achieve last year? I think that quietness of one's mind is very, very difficult. But I think it's something that should be done. And people always like rushing. It's a new year. Hey, even if it's a new year and you were not able to post last year, which was literally like 3 days ago, it's not late still to do the recalibration. So what did you achieve last year? What were your biggest lessons? And then most importantly, how can you improve? So put these things down. It definitely helps to put things down, and it will give you a very good sense of direction.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and yeah, I think you summarized it well, and I hope that our listeners take the time to actually do this, because it's highly super beneficial, and as I said earlier, try to do this as often as you can, so that you're able to be sure that you're on the right track as often as possible. So I think we're going to be talking to a specific set of people now, and it's for those who are decided to start the journey and they're looking to explore graduate school this year. So yeah, Chidinma, do you have any tips for them? It's the start of the year. What should they be looking at now? What should they be doing now?
Yeah, I think this is like the best time to actually start, right? Like, you are the very best time to start. So the first step is like research. Like, really, no one can do this research for you. I think this is probably the hardest part, in quote, but really research. So research comes into like, what do you want to do, right? What do I really want to do? I want to get into a master's program, a PhD program. Am I interested in country? So just look into programs, look into scholarships, look at application requirements, like just start with a strategy, right? And then I think for me, when I started, at first I didn't have an Excel sheet. I had my pen and my paper and a jotter. So I kind of like ruled the lines. These are the schools I want to apply to. These are their requirements, because that will help you plan early to know, okay, what documents do I need? What are the deadlines? Over time, eventually I transitioned to having an Excel sheet, but I started with my notes. So if you don't have a laptop, or maybe wherever you are, you can start with your jotter, but really now is the time to research. So you can be very strategic about your research. You can join WhatsApp groups where they share opportunities. I know I joined one, and there are so many helpful resources. Map out the deadlines, and then back to what I talked about with strategy. If the deadlines is something in, let's say, December 2025, where you're like, oh, I really love this scholarship, I'm going to start. It may be helpful to kind of look at the applications that the deadlines are, or start working on the ones that deadlines are pretty close. So just having a system and a structure is very, very important. So did you have a system when you started, Ojay, or was it something that you just knew everything?
Yeah, no, definitely I had a system. And I think for me, my start into graduate school was quite interesting, because I think I've shared this previously. It was someone that just called me and was like, oh, you should. She heard that, my results, and she was like super happy, and she had just finished a master's in the UK and was going for a PhD in Canada. And she was like, oh yeah, you should start looking into studying abroad. Your grades are good. And she was just like, I'm looking to, I think it was in Canada specifically, she wanted me to go to at that point. And she was like, yeah, look into Canadian universities and what they have to do. I'll call you back. And for context, the person that was speaking to me was the nurse that delivered me. So I was born into her hands. So yeah, there was this kind of sense of, apart from the fact that, it was exciting. For me, I knew people that were already abroad. I had siblings abroad. But even though I hadn't really looked into it per se, it was something that, I was aware that it was a possibility. It was just far away. But having this person just kind of, just come and be like, oh yeah, no. I mean, she was so really hell-bent on getting me into this. So, and I would say she did kickstart my journey into it. A version of me, the version of me I've tried to leave behind used to be he's a very, very chill person, and very, very chill person actually. And I did not used to really push myself. So I used to be that person that did not really used to push myself. So, but when she said that, and I had to, because one, I felt like I owed it to her, and then of course I had the right background and everything. But when I looked into everything that was required, I realized that I fit. I decided to become real. I could be this person. So then I didn't start with a spreadsheet, but yeah, it was just the beginning. It was Canada specifically. I was looking into, I researched a number of schools. I just wanted to get a vague idea of what was the requirement. Can I even do this kind of thing? So when I got that sense of, oh yeah, this is what needs to be done, and I think I can do this. Okay, I need to start getting my passport. I didn't have an international passport. I need to write IELTS. I didn't have IELTS at that time. So I didn't even start with this pressure. I started thinking about how to meet the requirements, and so I kind of said that, like, okay, by this time I want to do this. I need to save money for this. Okay, where do I get my passport from? All those kind of things were the things I started thinking about. Then when I felt like I met some of those requirements, some of those documentation kind of requirements, getting my transcript and all those kind of things, then I started thinking about getting a spreadsheet together, and like that. So again, I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't continue working with her. She didn't continue working with me that closely, but I think she ignited the fire, and then I moved on, just like you, joined WhatsApp groups, reached out to people, and it was a lot of people in my life that helped me to go through the process. So I would encourage people as well not to slack. They should reach out to people as well, and if you're curious about whether or not you meet the criteria, this is a good time to like start and check, and then figure out what you're missing, what you're lacking, so that you can fill in the gaps.
Absolutely amazing. I think one thing that's really struck out to me in what you said is also, and it's also similar to mine, is also the role that people play. I don't think it's fair to keep yourself within a particular space and think you wouldn't need people. I honestly, for the initial phases, I don't know if I would have gone very far without the people in my life. So yeah, please make friends that you guys can tag along together, because oftentimes it can be a very rigorous journey and you need people to encourage you.
100% correct. 100% correct. I think we should move on to another category of people, and we should talk about people who are looking to reapply. Yeah, so there are some people who have applied last year and they didn't get in, sadly, but it happens, and sometimes it's really beyond everybody's control. Or there are people who have looked at this, who started to look at it maybe late last year, and they were not able to put in an application because some things were missing, or because they missed the deadline, or whatever. What are the things that they should be looking forward to this new year?
Yeah, I think that for those who are like reapplying, I think it still kind of ties down to what we said earlier about reflection. But then kind of reflection in the context of not just personal reflection now, but looking at your application essays, right? Like, are you meeting the goals of what they want or what they wanted? For instance, I know in my own instance, the first application I ever made, I remember feeling furious that I didn't get it, but then I got a personal statement from someone who had gotten his award, and I used his personal statement to kind of revamp mine. And I also saw the reason why, to be fair, like objectively, why I didn't get that first scholarship. My essays were weak. So it's one thing to be very passionate about some things, another thing to communicate that. So, just revisit your essays, maybe share with people. I also shared my essays with my friend to kind of go through it. And then the feedback I helped me write a stronger essay. Remember, you're not there to tell people your story. It's your essay. So, that's for me one of the major things that helped me. I don't know, Ojay, what about you?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like at the beginning, I talked about the fact that it's about reflection, and I think, yeah, truly it's about reflection. So for me, the difference between my first and my second applications were just that I think in between I tried to make myself a more competitive candidate, and how I did that was when I got my first rejections. I think it was a couple of scholarships the first year I applied. For that first round, I kind of did it quite solo, not solo, but like it wasn't with a community of people. I was reaching out to people in my own network by having connected to the broader scholars networking, if there's anything like that in quotes. But when I got the rejections, I was like, okay, there has to be more people doing this beyond people who I've known always or who I know. So I went on LinkedIn, and so that was when I was like networking, and then I was seeing people sharing their rejection stories, and I was seeing the profiles of these people, because first of all, I thought I was like a worthy candidate, and yeah, maybe I was a worthy candidate, but I wasn't like a standout candidate. I wasn't outstanding in any way, to be honest. I was a good one. I just fit in like flat on the surface level. I fit in perfectly, but I had to be outstanding to be able to get it. So I realized I had to do more things. In school, I was a very like triangular student, as it were. I was a class, church, hostel class, church hostel person mostly. So I didn't do a lot of extracurricular. I think the major extracurricular I did was press. I was in the press. I became the editor-in-chief of the press, but that was it extracurricularly for me. I didn't do a lot of more volunteering stuff. So between then I realized that I had to. So I think the major two things I did in between cycles was volunteering. I tried to volunteer more, and then I took courses online because I realized I wanted to not switch. I wanted to specify. I wanted to go down into a niche, under the specific niche in my broad field of microbiology. So I went down the route of learning what was needed to stand out if I was going to that niche. So those were the things I did between application cycles, and I would say it helped me as I think. And I mean, evidently, my application stood out, which is what I wanted, and it has brought me where I am now. So I think that if you are reapplying, if you felt like you didn't fit in, now is the time to do something about it. So sit down. Chidinma have mentioned, like, reflect, strategize. So have a strategy of what you want to do. If you have to volunteer, if you have to take courses, what is it that's going to make you outstanding? Now is the time to think about it and then plan a course of action.
That's amazing. And I think that for me, really, like for anyone that's in this stage, I think this is probably one of the most difficult stage. But then don't let rejection, define you. One of my mentors, when I didn't get into a particular program that I wanted, and she was like, "Oh, that's their loss that they weren't able to take you." And for a very long time, I never saw it as that way. I always felt like, "Oh my God, woe is me. They don't want me. I'm not good enough." But you know the stuff you're made of. You know that you're probably going to be a person of impact. And if you're not accepted, it's really their loss. They lost a gem. But don't let it define you, but use it as a stepping stone for you to like build stronger, push further and go into something that would really be amazing for you. I think that's pretty much it for me from that end with respect to those who are reapplying.
Yep, I think you've said it well, and I really hope that this was very helpful to people who are in this category. So I think we kind of have one other set of people that I would like to address, and these are people who have started grad school. So you've gone through all this stage, you've planned how to get into grad school, you've gone through the narrow route of maybe rejections perhaps, or you were just lucky and you got in on the first star, but whatever the case, you've gone through it. You've also gone through all the visa struggles and traveled, and you've probably already experienced a semester. I know there are people who start school in January, but there are also, I think, more of a majority of people who start school at the end of the year, so sometimes September. So whatever the case, you are here in this category of graduate school. So we have tips for you, and I think Chidinma is going to go first to tell you, what do you do? How do you plan for this?
Yeah, I think the first semester it's usually very, I would say, interesting. Because it's like a lot happening. You're very happy that you're in this particular new environment, or also you're acclimatizing, right? So, or it's kind of like you've had your very first shock of, the educational system in my country is a little bit different. So, I think for me, my own experience, my first semester really wasn't that bad, to be very frank. I think one helpful thing was I worked in a research institute when I was in Nigeria, and it was modeled as I was doing graduate school outside the country. So there are a lot of things that I knew, like I knew most of the referencing. So I didn't feel the change that much in terms of the studies itself. So for me, it was more like acclimatizing to the environment. In Nigeria, for instance, you have to prepare, you wait till the end of the semester, right, to write an exam. And so then when we're like, your classes are due, your assignments are due, I'll think to myself, okay, it's fine. I'll just be reading. And then, but to my greatest shock, it's the best thing for you to do is to start early. So I think by my second semester, I kind of learned how to pace myself. Like, I feel like graduate school is a huge project management project, right? Where like you kind of like just know how to, as if you're really good with project management, of course, with God's grace, I think that you're going to do excellently well, even more than someone who is naturally very smart. So I think time management is one of the key things, like just learning, okay, this is due. I have to start working on this earlier so I'm able to finish this by so and so time and not be in a haste. So once you get the hang of it, I think you're pretty much very, very much good to go. So just balancing that coursework and research, and this varies across different systems of studying. So I think that just getting a hang of that was really very helpful for me to like return to the next semester and then get myself ready.
I think I can relate to a lot of the things, Yeah, I think the things you've said actually. I think for you, you did have the head start of like the fact that you worked in research. For me, not really. I hadn't worked in a research capacity before. So coming and just, if I don't even know if it was exactly research per se. I think what challenged me in my first year was the fact that I had to think in a different way. I had to learn how to think in a different way, really. So I had to learn how to be really critical. I think undergrad, I don't know if it's an undergrad thing generally or just undergrad in Nigeria, it was a lot of taking in facts. So you just had to learn the facts. And yeah, it's not bad. Like I had to learn that the difference between gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria and all the other things. I had to learn them. So, but there wasn't any challenging of anything. But coming to graduate school, I realized, and this was like kind of like the first thing that they hammered on. I remember it was like the very first lecture, the introductory lecture, was all what they talked about in my program. Oh, you had to do critical thinking, and everything's going to be critical thinking, and blah blah blah. And I was like, what is critical thinking and everything. And actually, I remember reaching out to when I got a admission to the program. I remember finding on LinkedIn. I went on LinkedIn to find somebody on the program, and then I chatted her up, and I was like, is that something I should be doing to prepare for graduate school? And she was like, oh no, if you I think she said, oh, just take the time to relax and enjoy, but if you do want to learn something, go and read about critical thinking. She told me actually, because yeah, I think she knew that was it. And so when I called on to the program and then they talked about the critical thinking again, she actually sent me resources, I think. I can't remember for sure. But I think I read through them. But I mean, critical thinking is something that you actually have to practice and develop as a skill. So I read about it. It was very nice theoretically. And then it came time to to apply it in practice to my assessments actually. Because again, at least for the master's program, when I was in the master's program, it was the fact that you just come to class and then we discuss and then you already know what even you are going to be assessed on. The questions are already there, and it's nothing related to what you are learning in class per se. They're not going to ask you anything you're learning in class. They're going to just ask you something different that you have to like kind of abstract the skills from what you had been taught in class to actually write it. So I could literally sit in class and not write a single thing and just be listening and then be contributing. Of course, we had like project-based learning things to do, a lot of presentations. I think almost every day you come to class, they give you something to work in a group and present, and it was fun to be honest. And there was no pressure until it came time to write and do the critical thinking part of the whole thing. So it was a learning. So there was the learning curve of actually thinking critically. If it was not, I think it would have been fun because the pressure was not as much. So, but then when I got my first grades back, yeah, I realized, I had to like, it wasn't bad. I think I felt okay, but I also realized I could also still do better, right? So there was that. And then also I wanted to get a PhD, so I was already applying for, I think I was doing a lot actually for my first semester in school. I was already thinking about the next year. I just want to start a PhD immediately, so I should start applying. So it was just a lot of things I was doing in addition to fitting into learning that thing that I think I was missing from the start of the whole thing. But I think if there's one thing I want to say to anybody in that has been going through the whole circumstance, that you would learn. It becomes easier. You would learn if you apply yourself. Don't be too anxious. I think it's difficult to say don't be too anxious. If you think the world is going to end, in quotes, it may be difficult to see how things will get better sometimes, especially if you like have a lot of other hopes, like you're thinking about getting a job. If you don't want to do a PhD, you're thinking about the next step. Some people are like that. If you're like me, I like to plan like forever in advance. So I'm always, it's possible to just be in that fixed state of anxiety. But really, I think it's a new year. Just relax, balance, learn to shift things forward. You don't have to do everything. There's also extracurriculars, there's things to do, but try to also savor the moment, try to learn gratitude, try to be reflective. Don't be too anxious and then miss it. Because I remember telling somebody, it was even this last year, somebody that was on the program was asking me how it went and everything. And I just remember telling her, you're in a very good place, please enjoy yourself and enjoy the fact that you are here. Make sure you take the best opportunities, do this, make sure you relax and everything. So it's kind of the same. And at the same time I was telling her to be very serious because it was a difficult course she was on. So it was a two-pronged advice, and I think it's the same thing I tell everybody. You have to be serious, but you don't have to do as if your life depends on it at the same time. So I think it's
that's really amazing. I think like just getting that balance. I think balance is, people always ask, is there anything like balance? But hey, either way, like just find that sweet spot of like rest, and because rest is also important, savoring the moment, because you're going to realize that when I was doing my master's, I look back, I was like, I never really hung out with anyone. I was just like straight to school and everything, and hey, you don't want to do that, okay? So For returning students, so this is just think about this new semester as a new chance for you to build on what you've learned, right? So set realistic goals for yourself, like goals that are very smart, take care of yourself. And remember that every progress you make is very important. I used to accumulate so many things for myself over the break, but this break, for instance, I told myself, you know what, I have an abstract to turn in, but my goal is to get the analysis done. And that was it. And that kind of was progress for me, other than before when I put myself under the pressure of I have to finish the whole abstract and everything. So just step by step, progress is the goal and not perfection.
Yeah, that's awesome. That last bit is just nailed it all. Just chase progress, I think, and don't kill yourself. But yeah, so I think regardless, we've talked to different people, and I hope that somehow, somewhere, you fit into one of these categories. But if not, I think that there are some more general things to do that would help you make this year a very successful standout one for you. Chidinma, do you have one? What would you say tip for everybody?
I'd say set really practical and smart goals. People have heard this before, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. While I was reflecting on last year, I looked at one of my goals. I think some time ago I put my goal as make 10 million US dollars.
Wow.
I know, right? I know I'm going to make that. But you're just looking back, I was like, okay, Chidinma, was this really smart? Was this really smart? And it was very funny. So yeah, it's very possible to do that. But I think just making very specific goals, is it something that is really, really achievable? And there are lots of resources on how to set goals. We're not going to bore you with that, but just breaking things very in deep pieces for yourself. So think of it as a huge cooking project. If you want to cook, you're going to get the ingredients, you're going to get the pot, you're going to get the fire that you need. So just think of it that way. I think that will be very helpful, and it kind of just helps you keep yourself in track.
Yeah, I think you're right. Smart goals definitely are a thing. I think it's very important for everybody to set smart goals, and I think you have to really check that your goals are smart and you're not aiming for $10 million. So not 10 million naira, $10 million in a given year. People get $10 million, right?
No, it's possible.
Yeah, right. It's achievable. Is it achievable now?
Yeah,
is it
exactly.
achievable is it achievable at that moment? Is it achievable within that time frame? A lot of things, right? So if Chidinma said she wants to get $10 million, maybe 5 years from then, I don't know when she wrote it, maybe that would have been stuff. But yeah, so please check your goals that they're actually smart. And you really want to look at it and be sure that it's answering all the questions, you can see all the points there, so that you don't put yourself under unnecessary pressure, because on smart goals, that's what they do to you. Put under unnecessary pressure and set you up for failure, and that's not what you want. But for me, I would say another step, as you're doing all these things, make sure you prioritize self-care. I think I've said this before. You want to try, and I think we just said it actually, you want to try to strike a balance. You want to try to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. I think I like the WHO's definition of health, that it's not just about physical well-being, because coming from the global south, or the global south, let me use the global south, low and middle income country, where we are kind of plagued with infectious diseases. So we tend to think about health in the state of, do I have an infectious disease or not? That's it. But really, health is more than that. Health encompasses both your mental, your social. So that's why you don't want to be a class 2 hostel room kind of person. You want to try to make relationships, because that contributes to your health and well-being. And you want to take care of your physical, you want to be eating well, you want to be sleeping well, you want to be exercising as much as possible. You want to also be ensuring that even as you're in school, you're undertaking some kind of personal development, something that would mentally stimulate you as well. So if it's reading books, you want to pick up a hobby, something that kind of you feel like you're progressing, even if your school life is not necessarily going the way you want. So those are things that you want to also invest in. So you just want to be around. And of course, I'm also going to say, okay, you want to make sure they're spiritually healthy as well. I believe that, I think I'm Chidinma Christians, and for me, it's the bedrock of it. It's kind of a foundational stability for all that for my whole life. My whole life revolves around my spiritual stability. And I feel that for a lot of people, that's also needed. There are various forms of spirituality and kinds of religion that people embrace and practice. But I know that that part of life is also very, very useful and very mandatory. I think everybody should explore that and make sure you don't neglect that for academics, because I remember during my master's I missed church a lot, and I think it's part of the reasons why. I mean, church is not the only way for me to connect to spirituality, to my religion. It's not the only way to be a Christian, but it was a very, very central part of my practice of my faith. So it was very necessary for me to go to church as well, and I had somehow kind of neglected that aspect of life. So all in all, what I would say is prioritize self-care. Do not sacrifice your health and your well-being on the altar of anything. Yeah, it's not worth it.
That's very true. And we have probably I was going to say the best tip, but then you talked about spirituality and our relationship with God. I think that's very, very important and very crucial. Kind of helps you stay balanced, your mental health, and find something else and be a blessing to people. But then we have a tip for you, okay? The third tip, drum rolls, is to stay connected to Scholar Chit Chat community. We have a lot of things packed out for you this year. Like, one thing we can guarantee you is that you're not going to be bored. You're with the right people. So in Nigeria, I would say follow who know road. We're definitely going to lead you where you're going to. So stay connected with us, engage with us on social media, and share questions. We have lots of fun events coming up for you this year. We got you, okay? So participate in our events, and we look forward to enjoying this year with you.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so that's it. You want to be with us because we can take you where you are going. Yeah, we know the road. So about saying addition, don't be afraid to adapt. So all that has been said and done, we really don't know what the future holds. We say, sera, but life would happen. And plans will change and situations will come up, but you have to be flexible. As a Christian, I would say that the situations don't define me. So I will go with God, and that would help me just stay grounded regardless of the situation. So you have to be flexible, adaptable, and that is going to be your superpower regardless of what comes your way in 2025. So I'm going to say, Chidinma talked about Scholar Chit Chat, how you want to stay with us, you want to stay engaged to us, you want to stay connected to us. So what can you expect? Chidinma is going to tell you the things you can expect in the year 2025 from Scholar Chit Chat.
We have lots of fun-packed activities, not just fun, but really some things that would get you to where you're going to. We look forward to the times where we get feedback from people. Hey, we listened to your podcast and now we're in Germany or now we're in the US. So we have live sessions coming up. We know that oftentimes people would need, you would need someone to kind of show you the way, actually. I know seeing people's personal statements with my eyes was very helpful. So we also have workshops. Our workshops are going to be very detailed, like gain hands-on practical skills, and we have more episodes with incredible guests. So we have a lot for you, really. The question is not whether we have a lot. The question is that can you handle what we have? So whether you're just starting, if you're reapplying or preparing for grad school, like, we have something for you. Okay, so stay tuned, and we're just happy to have you within our community.
Yeah, Chidinma said it also. The point is, are you ready? That's actually the only question. Are you ready? And beyond all these activities and the episodes, we are also building a community. So we have a WhatsApp channel, and you can always reply to our episodes on Substack, and we'll be there to engage with you, to answer questions. Feel free to suggest topics that you want us to talk about as well, because we are making this for you. And so we've said this before. Join us on social media, subscribe to the newsletter so that you don't miss anything, and then engage with our content, drop comments and respond to polls and all these things so that we stay motivated to continue to serve you and give you awesome content always.
All right, awesome. So this is going to be an amazing year, and we're very glad that you're in this year with us, you're in this journey with us. So thank you very much, and look forward to hearing from you, from your feedbacks, from engaging, as Ojay said, and we're glad to have you with us on this journey.
That's it for today. Thank you for starting the year with us. Thank you for listening to us today.
Remember, planning is the first step to success, so let's make this year the best one yet.
So until next time, everybody, keep learning, keep growing, keep chatting. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Scholar Chit Chat. If you found our conversation insightful and enjoyable, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated. We've got a lot more in store and we don't want you to miss out.
We are always diving into topics like this: academics, scholarship, professional life, and the international student experience. It's what makes Scholars Chit Chats your go-to podcast for a fresh perspective. Also, don't keep all this wisdom to yourself. Share this episode with your friends and family who could benefit from it. We are building a community of learners and would love for you to be a part of it.
Your thoughts matter to us. We want to hear from you. Drop your comments and questions in the chat, or send your questions, suggestions, and comments to scholarchitchat@gmail.com. Your input helps shape the future of Scholar Chit Chats.